Well, the state rolled out their ADU provisions last year, I believe.
Yeah, they took effect
Yeah.
in January 2017.
Right, and so that they gave us, they're giving the cities an opportunity to come up with their own ADU ordinance that could be more curtailed to the community's needs. There are some areas where the city can come up with different provisions that are a little different from the state, but some areas we cannot um, go against or contradict the state code, and this is where Debbie's gonna come in and let us know what those are.
Okay, I have some questions, but I'm gonna wait until you make your presentation because I understand what this is.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right,
Go.
okay. Well, to provide a little background on this ordinance that we're going to be developing and submitting to the planning commission and later on to your council, the state did adopt a number of pieces of legislation in 2016 that took effect in 2017. It basically enabled or required cities to make more flexible the ability to construct what are called accessory dwelling units. There was legislation on the books, and many cities already adopted what we call separate unit ordinances, and the city of Baldwin Park has one in their zoning code now. The state was trying to strengthen the ability to provide more housing in light of the housing crisis that we have in the state. So the state code that was passed says that the cities may adopt their own ordinances, and if they do not adopt their own ordinances, then the state legislation prevails and applications would have to be reviewed under state standards. The state, in its legislation that they adopted, allowing cities to adopt their own ordinances, allowed for certain areas where the city can expand its regulatory authority over construction of certain, what we call ADUs, accessory dwelling units. In some areas, your hands are a little bit tied because of the way the legislation is written, and we'll get into that. But for the most part, it also deemed any ordinance that the city may have on the books that is not completely in compliance with the new legislation is null and void. So basically, what we're proposing with this ordinance will replace what you have now in your zoning code for the second dwelling unit regulations. Basically, an ADU is a unit that's attached or detached. It's a residential dwelling unit that has to provide complete independent living arrangements for cooking, sanitation, on the same parcel as a single house. The items that I tried to summarize here in this handout here, that the cities, when you adopt your own ordinance, there are certain requirements that you have to meet that are not subject to negotiation. The first, which is ADUs have to be permitted within all zones, any residential zone that allows for construction of a single family dwelling. So in the city of Baldwin Park, you have 4 zones that allow for that, and we'll get into that in a minute. The ADU is not required to be counted in the calculation of density on a lot, and that's currently true with your second unit buildings. The proposed ADU must be approved as a ministerial project. You can't have any discretionary review for any of the proposals. ADUs can either be newly constructed detached, they can be newly constructed attached, or they can be a dwelling unit that's converted from an accessory, what we call an accessory structure, and we define accessory structures in the proposed ordinance. But generally, the state includes in that definition garages, pool houses. They're going to come around probably to the point of maybe including carports in that definition. That's not adopted yet, but right now it's garages, pool houses for sure. Or a unit constructed within the existing walls of an existing single family, as long as it has its own separate access. We talked about density. All right, so what is in your control with your ordinance is if you can designate certain areas. The state says you can designate areas you deem appropriate for the construction of an ADU. That can be based on a number of factors, which it says includes something like availability of water, sewer, police services, and fire, and those sorts of items. Many cities and what we're proposing to do as a qualifying criteria also includes minimum lot size. So we have a minimum lot size requirement in our draft ordinance right now. This is only applicable to newly constructed, and that means anything that's constructed as a new detached or a new attached unit to an existing single family.
So just for clarification purposes, so someone's trying to say, I saw my neighbor building so-and-so, I want the same thing, if they've already built, it cannot apply to the same thing as a newly constructed dwelling, right?
It works like this, if you have an 8,000, if the way our ordinance, we'll get into the details in a little bit, but if you have a lot size that meets the requirements, if you have only one single family dwelling unit on the lot now, you can't have more than one. If it's existing, everything has to be legal and permitted, you can't convert or change something into an ADU that is illegal construction. It has to be permitted. You may apply to the city for building permit, basically, to build either a new detached unit, an attached new construction to the existing home. Or you can apply for building permit to convert an accessory structure to an ADU. Or to be able to get building permit to convert part of your own home. So I don't know if that answers your question, but those are the things you're allowed to do. So
But like, because I know we have some here in the city, some illegal, conversions of garages, which typically we would ask for them to knock down or, like, that can't just all of a sudden be a new dwelling.
Well, no, if it is currently an illegal conversion, with the new legislation, it would have to be, I don't know how it would work mechanically, but a garage can be converted to an ADU. It may be illegally converted now, but through the process of getting permits to allow it, it would have to be legalized, basically.
And initially, that garage did have a permit, so it was a legal structure as a garage, it was just not covered yet.
So if they fit all of the criteria that we set, then they could get a permit to legalize the garage as a dwelling unit if they meet all of our other requirements. But it would have to be inspected for safety for electrical and plumbing and all of those things that are, as it were built new.
So when you're saying, so we're talking, this applies only to new structures or?
No, there are like three basic scenarios under which you can do an ADU. One is new construction, and that can either be a detached structure or it can be an addition to an existing home. And in that scenario, you have a lot more regulatory authority over the construction of the project. The state also says to cities, you have to allow the conversion of an accessory structure over which you don't have a whole lot of controls. The garage in where it's situated, if it's a detached garage, has to be allowed to be converted, it has to be brought up to building code and all that. But you have to allow for it to be an ADU if someone is proposing that, they can meet the building code. The other scenario is you're allowed to convert a portion of your existing home into a separate unit, so you can split the home basically. You just have to provide separate access. Again, you have to meet building code requirements for that unit. But those are basically the three sources.
So when you're saying separate access, so say for instance, I decided to build one in my house, so that home itself has to have, kitchen and so on and so forth?
Two kitchens,
Okay.
yes, at least 2 bathrooms, 2 entrances.
So you could split any house in half, is that
Probably
right?
2 air
Okay.
conditioning, 2 air conditioning units.
You can basically make it a duplex.
Okay, now, when, you said this passed at the state of 2017?
It became effective 2017.
How many cities are actively, I know that's, I believe South Lakes are actively, what cities have already adopted?
I've worked on a couple, we've got one for Bell Gardens, one for, I think Pasadena has one, LA has one, right?
LA's still in the work.
LA's
What's the one, yeah.
When one of their requirements is that they're not allowing in hillside, so that's one of their,
Yeah, which they can do.
yeah, which they can do.
Because it's not.
Now, so we're saying, sorry about that, so we're saying that if the city does not adopt our own ordinance in accordance with the state, then the state will adopt, will put that, okay, we basically don't have choice.
It's much like the cannabis man. Remember, we had to pass an ordinance doing something with cannabis in order to preserve our right to regulate it later, same kind of thing.
So when does this say for instance, we adopt this, how long thereafter, are we doing public hearings, is that what we're doing this
We'll have to
often?
go to planning commission, do those hearings, and the city council adopt the ordinance, probably a first reading, second reading, and then effective 30 days.
So basically, all the cities throughout 58 counties are going to have to adopt some type of.
Or they're stuck with what the state gave them.
Yeah, really quick,
Yes.
our tentative schedule is August 22nd, planning commission, September 5th, city council public hearing, first reading. The 19th, September 19th would be the second reading. And then by October 19th, if we follow this schedule, the ADU ordinance becomes effective. So that's more or less.
Oh, that's gonna be interesting. And of course, everything, per the city ordinance and what have you, building codes and so on and so forth.
Could I ask one question?
Yes.
If they have an attached garage, you turn that into an ADU, because you said unattached.
Well, detached is considered an accessory structure, but an attached garage would be considered kind of a primary structure, so yes, in theory, that can be converted and turned into, it's a part of the primary existing dwelling, so it can be separated off and made into.
But in most
Then that garage would have to have bathroom, a sink, a kitchen, all in that garage.
Separate.
So it could be like that one of those singles, right?
Studio.
Sorry, studio like this.
And a separate entrance on
Now, in many cases, depending how we write our ordinance, we have to provide replacement parking for that garage.
Parking is a good question.
I know you're getting to that, 'cause
Yeah,
I see it here.
that's pretty much the issue with the state legislation. The state government code now says that you may require one new parking space per unit or bedroom, provided the ADU is not located in, there are certain criteria from which you can't, which if it applies, you cannot require parking. And they are, if the unit is within a quarter mile of a public transit stop, and the state defines public transit as any fixed route system, which includes the bus system. So I know in this city, most every property is within a quarter mile of a bus stop. So you can't require new parking or replacement parking if the garage is converted in that scenario.
Wow.
And then if you have an accessory structure, as defined by our proposed ordinance, which is a detached garage or greenhouse or something like that, if you convert that garage to an ADU, you cannot, the state says you cannot require additional parking or replacement parking in that scenario. So that is what is pretty much the issue for most of the local jurisdictions in Southern California. Of course.
We have a problem now. Every jurisdiction, I mean, there's no street in Baldwin Park, and even the ones that it's permitted, the people still park there anyway, even though they gave out 10 tickets the other day on Medillo. People don't care, they continue parking there. So,
Well, that is the state government code requirement now, and unfortunately, we wrote into draft ordinance a requirement for parking, a requirement for replacement parking, but if any of those other circumstances prevail, you're effectively not allowed.
So in essence, they were looking at October, then when someone could officially come in and apply for an actual permit itself.
Under either the new ordinance.
How's West Covina, anyone know how they started their Covina?
I
don't think West Covina's done it yet.
Yeah, but I was gonna say that's
They have?
disparity.
no, I don't think so, because you know what? This is something that has been discussed. I work very closely with the COG Ad Hoc Homeless Committee. And I know that a lot of us are looking for solutions and working closely with Supervisor Solis, which is our district supervisor. And I know that West Covina, Mayor Lloyd Johnson is very much in trying to find affordable housing or housing to prevent homelessness. And I know that West Covina doesn't have that. No, not yet anyway, not that he has discussed with the rest of us. So, yeah.
But see, the problem with this, and I'm just speaking about, is that there are communities like Monrovia, that I know very well. It's just, like those 6.7 square miles, they're so dense that it doesn't apply to something like, Monrovia. We have open land, and so there's space. For us, it's going to be such parking nightmare, and there's no way we can.
Did you say
Yeah,
doesn't?
petition.
Did you say it doesn't apply to Monrovia?
No, I'm saying it's
Oh.
across the board, but they're not taking into consideration there were 6.7 square mile, 80,000 residents. Novia's like, 13.5 or something, and like 32,000 residents. So they have room to add and expand, and there's parking for us, we're maxed out.
That's gonna be a boom ballpark.
Yeah, we're gonna be,
Yeah, they're
it's
gonna be
really,
calling.
it's really, I think what this lacks is really, or the state ordinance is that it should have taken into consideration the density in each city already. And say, okay, what are the possibilities, do we have, and I believe that there's a study going on right now, through the supervisor's offices, that they are coming and they're telling you, this is where we can have affordable housing, this is where we can have transitional housing, and so forth. But they're doing a study to tell us where certain locations, but this concerns me because of the density, and I know that a lot of us live on streets that we can barely get by because of the traffic. You know, that at least on the average, I would think, there's about 4 cars per household right now. There might be more.
It's a common problem, I know, cities similar to Baldwin.
So we better look at this, I mean, close to now. How long thereafter before you hold off, not that we don't wanna do it, before the state would actually implement or decide that they're gonna adopt it?
This is something the city can choose to do. What the state, if you don't do it, you, like your city attorney was explaining, you
Right.
kind of relinquish what controls you do have over certain types of ADUs.
So, if I may ask this question, like, there's certain things like, you know, the elections, right, like we have to comply, move it to an odd year by 2022. Are they giving us leeway to comply by a certain time, or if someone automatically goes in petitions right now for a permit, then they fall under the state guideline?
There's no deadline for you to adopt the ordinance.
So it's either
It's up-
we do it,
it's-
or we go state, right?
Yes, someone can come in and apply for an ADU now. They would be entitled to go through the building permit process, which is what the state requires, and they don't have, criteria in place. They don't have the specific criteria that's tuned to your city to evaluate any review.
So we have to, because.
So, but what I'm hearing though is you would like them to craft this ordinance to make it as strict as you can.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And so that we can regulate these as much as we can under the state law, but still comply with the state law.
But
Get it
density
into
really-
place
yes.
on time.
The density really concerns me. I know that if there are certain guidelines as to having a kitchen and a restroom and a shower, whatever, you know, like a studio apartment, as you say. What concerns me is the parking and some of the things. And also, have they done a study of our schools and see if they can take on any more children, and especially here in Baldwin Park, if you're looking at a family with at least 2 children that will be moving into one of these dwellings, are the schools going to be able to, you know, to sustain this?
I don't think they've taken a look at it that close in depth.
But it's passed, right? So,
Yeah.
So at the very least, if we can be as strict as, I mean, we know the reality, right, but someone applying the, was that we adhere to our ordinance, right, so as strict as we can make it. There are, we know about this. We also have an ordinance in place that people cannot build within their backyards, so there's not enough ordinance, if I remember correctly. Do you remember what that percentage is?
yeah, and I think that it was touched on the density, if they're under certain, if they fall under certain criteria, they don't have to comply with that density, correct?
None of the units, with your second unit ordinance that you have in the books right now, units built under that do not count as. Right, and neither do that's kind of the same.
So Councilmember
But we have a
Rubio,
minimum lot size.
Yes, we've established in this ordinance, we've established a minimum lot size, but keep in mind that only can be applied to a new construction.
And if I'm, go ahead.
I think that, you mentioned that if we do have laws on the books right now that are in conflict with what this says, they're null and void. So the law that you're talking about is gonna be null and void when this is enacted.
The existing second unit.
Okay.
is
Now, I
already-
agree, I'm kind of curious. Does this only apply to houses versus, say, a condominium? I'm curious.
Okay, the way we structured the ordinance, we limited it to, for example, you have to have, for new construction, you have to have an 8,000 square foot lot, you have to have only 1 unit on the property, you can't have more than 1. It has to be a single family, a lot zoned for single family, although the multifamily zoning allows for single family units, so qualifies. When it comes to the conversion of an accessory structure, however, the state says sort of hands off. If you're gonna convert, if somebody wants to convert an accessory structure, you have to allow it. You cannot set locational or lot size requirements on those, other than, the ability to provide, water, sewer, and that sort of thing.
But condos, by virtue of the definition of condo, already comes with regulations because it's not a single family home, so it doesn't follow the.
Yeah, and condominiums, if they're airspace condominiums anyway, they're on one lot and you have more than one unit on the lot, so that lot, by that virtue of that situation, excludes that lot from being able to have an ADU.
So, but they can be built on a multifamily zone
Zone
property?
property,
If there's one house.
only one house can open.
So if there's 12 apartments, they cannot convert a garage or an accessory.
My comment right now is a little more towards Robert and see if maybe we can look at another avenue. I had a discussion earlier with Debbie about location parameters, and she's basically saying that the state can allow that. But going back to LA's ordinance, how, and we have to research, how are they able to manage to separate hillside development? Because obviously it's much harder to do hillside because there's more studies, more grading, more of everything just to build anything. But I think one of the issues too in the hillside areas of LA is parking and traffic, which is nowhere to put. So I'm just kind of curious as to how they did and whether or not Baldwin Park would be able to set some
I think I saw
parameters.
safety provisions, so they probably use the fire department.
That
The
could be.
streets are too narrow, they can't get up there.
And so in areas, in Baldwin Park where there's a lot of red curb and there's
The
nowhere
streets are narrow.
for people to park on the street, I was trying to see if we can do some limitations where maybe the accessory had to be in the back of the main house. But Debbie's saying that the state doesn't interpret it that way. So, again, Robert, I just was trying to see if we can explore what Baldwin Park might be able to do.
I think we should sit down and meet about that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times what cities do is, they just adopt the ordinance, even if it's in conflict with the state, and say, okay, you're gonna do something about it.
Yeah.
In other words, I don't think it necessarily, I mean, of course you have to fit it into whatever exception there are, but usually there are always some exceptions, and you just get that in to whatever it is.
And I'm
wait
sure
for
that
somebody
might make
to
a
challenge it.
finding for that, or maybe we'll take a look at those
That's
findings.
right.
Going to,
Because I'm thinking of like all these narrow streets that we have, I mean, it will become a hazard because as it is, if you ever drive through some of the narrow streets, I mean, it's already packed with cars, it's already dangerous zone to me, like for a fire department or a truck to go through. You have to imagine that people are going to be taking every little curb to park outside, I mean, I don't know, we do need research, but I think we should be able to, I don't know, figure out a way to petition and talk about these smaller streets that become a danger zone for families. I mean, we should have some kind of recourse because we just, again, I don't see the trucks being able to go through these narrow streets when you have so many cars out on the street. But let's see what we can do to make sure
the
that
other
it's
one
really
is
tight.
on number 4, part B, which says fire sprinklers are not required. If I remember correctly, insurance companies aren't insuring you anymore if you want to renew your homeowners, if you don't have fire sprinklers. And if you want to borrow off of that property to convert, you have to have fire sprinklers. The bank is, or the finance company is requiring that, absolutely, you're not gonna be able to do it. So I don't understand this.
The law says that if you're doing a conversion of an accessory structure, or if you're building within your, basically creating a duplex, you don't, unless the existing home has fire sprinklers, you're not required to sprinkle it, that's what that was saying. So, I mean, that would then become a consideration on the part of the homeowner. What risk am I putting myself into by doing this, if I'm not going to sprinkle the rest of the home? If my insurance company requires fire sprinklers, then if they want to do an ADU within their home, then they have to sprinkle it. That's what the covenant says.
So you're gonna do a study with them?
I'm gonna look at the LA ordinance to see how they carve that out, and then I'm gonna meet with them and see whether we can carve some stuff out for Baldwin Park too.
Could you look at the county supervisors, what they're looking at? Because I believe that, Barger So Leafs and Fuel have been looking into this and working out an ordinance for the city of Los Angeles. That they've already presented to some of their council members. So take a look at what they have.
I'll contact their offices and see what they've been doing, if
Yes.
they can give me anything that they're working on.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else have a question? Thank you.
And then we should have roll call.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that in the public communication, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much. All right, so this, I'm gonna go and open up the public communication and we'll,
So roll call first.
roll call first. All right.
Yes. Councilmember Baca?
Here.
Councilmember Garcia is absent. Mayor Lozano? Councilmember Rubio? Mayor Pro Tem Pacheco?
All righty, thank you. So at this point, I'd like to open up public communication, anyone speak?
Public communication.
Yeah, come on up here. Come on.
It's fine, it's fine. I'm not talking about that. City of Alhambra is requiring the 600 square foot. But, Covina asked 12,000 square foot is current.
Wow.
Lot
Yeah,
size.
For the lot size.
Yeah. Yeah, and, some other city, they're talking about those code. If you not, end up with this code, they can follow the state code.
Oh,
So they override your code.
right,
They can put it whenever they want.
Of course.
That's the case.
okay, thank you very much. All right, did you wanna say something back there?
I think they do.
Come on up here. You wanna come up? Hello.
So, there was this article we found online that says that, in order to plant, cannabis, it has to be 50 feet away from, a single resident house.
That's right.
But then there is this, there's one, there's two houses actually in our area that are doing the cannabis, and it's next door to our house, and one that is across the street.
What is the address where you're at?
My address
Yeah.
is 4137 Quincy Avenue,
Okay.
and next door is 4145.
And the one across the street is 4152. And these are being grown in another single-family house?
No, it's a building, it's an industrial building,
It's in there.
but their house is right next door, and they just moved the fence. The owner of the building there, I'm familiar with the location. The owner of the business, the cultivation business, just moved his fence to, closer to their house.
At 4137, Quince Avenue.
Yes, it's the only house there,
I
it's
know which one
surrounded
it
by
is.
industrial.
Did they
So,
buy it?
the owner, no, they bought it about a year or two ago. The owner of the cultivation business moved the fence recently because apparently when they purchased the property, they were not told that the fence or was 50 feet into their property. So, but the owner of the cultivation business, the industrial part of it, he just moved the fence about 2 weekends ago without telling them,
Wow.
mailbox and all. And so, they are very concerned because it's near the teen center. The teen center is right on the other side,
Right.
west of where they are. And then, of course, they are right close. I mean, their wall is, believe it or not, it's like from right
Yeah, the
there
picture,
to
let me see
where
the
they are.
picture. Yeah, that's one for us. You don't want to show up? Where's your house here?
This is
Oh,
my
I
house.
know what you mean. Oh, yeah. The right across from the roof.
Yes,
Well, just for
but
the record,
but it's the guy next door that causes the problems. I don't know his name.
This one is next door. I'm not sure this one's across the street, but I know this one is.
You have an extra copy?
can I see that real quick?
Let me take a picture.
Could we make some copies?
I could, maybe they can email it to me.
Oh, okay, can
Pass
you
it out
email
to
it to our
everybody.
city manager?
Right now?
No, later
Email it to
on,
me tomorrow.
later on tomorrow or
And I can pass
tonight.
it out to everybody and then we
Please.
can
Thank you.
look into it closer.
So you know what? Yeah, go ahead, Ricardo.
I mean, I would like to ask staff, to take a look at it, it looks like a possibly non-conforming use issue. So I'm not, I got the
Code enforcement has gone out there on several occasions. However, the owner of the cultivation is very uncooperative. Yes, given that it is his property, but he is very abusive with them.
And my recollection, I don't know for sure, Councilmember Baca, but I believe the applicant is Janelle Maurice.
Oh, I don't know what it
I
is.
believe.
I just know that he's very
I
abusive.
can't tell you for sure, but I believe that's the
Well,
one.
let's work with the family and see what we can resolve. I mean, just the mere fact that they encroached upon the property.
This is Shannon, I see you. Can you let me know your phone number, please?
Okay?
Well, Shannon, can you just state for the record that I
Yes.
called the police on 3 other illegal activities and nothing has been done?
So if you can give, this is Shannon, that's our city manager. If you can give him your information so that he can contact you, and I'm glad that he's clean, because I know code enforcement has been doing like 2 weekends in a row. Now it's, yeah.
So I gave her my card and she can email me all of that information.
Now, where they placed the gate, was that your property?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes,
Okay.
the mailbox was on the side of the road when I went over there to look at that.
Wow.
I thought that by federal law, you weren't supposed to touch somebody else's mailbox.
Wow, well, you should not. Wow, okay, so, you have her number?
I gave her my card, she's gonna email me.
Okay,
the-
contact him and we'll work with your family, okay?
Thank
We're
you.
gonna sit down together and figure out what's going on.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry for the inconvenience.
Did you get your copies?
No, here we go.
Oh.
That's,
Oh,
for this is, yes, I don't want
wow. Wow, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, anyone else?
So,
Yeah.
Susan, I'm sorry, you said something that you had reported something I didn't quite understand, I'm sorry.
No, yeah, I called on 3 occasions about illegal activities going on in some of the facilities, from remote violations to armed guard walking around with a gun to, just all sorts of things, and I don't have any resolution, and I'm told constantly that it's not a police issue, so.
Also,
For the record,
Also, from what I understand from some of the seniors, and I think I reported it to one of the captains, and I think I mentioned it to you, Robert, is that some of our seniors have told us that they have found in the back of the trash bin of the Morgan Park, they have found, trash bags with, like buds and stuff that are left over from residue of whatever they don't use during the cultivation. That's in back of Morgan Park. They found it in some trash bags. They noticed a smell and apparently they looked and it was in there. Also, over on Azusa Canyon, off of Azusa Canyon, I was told that they found trash bags with stuff that they don't use, whatever it was. In fact, somebody was even telling me that whoever found the bag was able to get $100 off of some of the buds that they found in the bag. No, I'm not gonna say who told me, but I have mentioned it on several occasions. Thank you, Susan, for reminding me.
Mayor,
they're
if I
already
have-
out
Yes,
there,
go ahead.
and they
Go
don't have
ahead.
permits yet.
Yes, Councilman Ricardo.
It's my understanding that no cultivation has started yet, none of these companies that have permits have actually built their facilities to be able to begin cultivation. Is that-
That's our understanding. I know Lewis is actually sending out letters right now to them all, basically going to meet and greet with them to make sure they understand the process and make sure that they're not operating without any of the proper
Yeah, they should not be operating until they get the, all the
Yeah,
permits.
again, for the record, I've seen it myself, I've seen it, and no one is responding to my request.
Listen, Mr. Tuttle, go ahead, yes. Yeah, go ahead. Yes,
Oh,
yes.
sorry.
I'm very well familiar with these people's problems. I've talked to the guy there, and he's very uncooperative. I try to get him to like work with the people. The problem is too, I code enforced and turned it into code enforcement last week. The problem is that he's too close to the teen center. Remember all the maps I gave you and all that stuff that everybody blew off? Well, he's not certified. In order to even grow, he's got to have certified distance from his building there. Now he's just screwed himself because he added another 6 feet closer to the team center, which is illegal. Now, the city adopted a 50-foot radius. Now, the city claims through Gus Romo that, well, okay, see, this is really an industrial, we changed the property zoning. This residence has been there since the 40s, okay? You don't just up and change the ordinance, the city zoning, and these people are sitting there with a house, but it's not residential. There's real people living in this house next to this guy. He doesn't want to do any working with them or anything else. The fencing he put in is over 6 feet high, which needs a permit. On the other side, he's next to P&G, which he has razor fencing, which is illegal. Nobody's doing anything about that. Behind, he has fencing that's done by another company that's over 6 feet high, again, no permitting. This needs to be cleaned up with the code enforcement. This guy came in, redid his whole inside of the building with no permits. No permits. It got red tagged, and I think Shannon knows about it too. And Taylor was over there. I turned it in. He's over there doing all this work, putting drywall in and all this other stuff. He's totally gonna do whatever he feels like doing. It's not gonna happen in this city. He needs to comply, he needs to pay his permits, and he needs to move forward with doing the legal thing. Now, he's done everything he can to aggravate these people just to move them out. But he's too close because we didn't do our due diligence to check the distance of these buildings. And it's just like roofing. They're too close to the teen center too, if you want to take property lines. But nobody did the due diligence, sent out proper people to certify that these people are the proper distance. So I suggest that before it gets into World War III, that we do the first easy thing. He's too close to the teen center, and so is roofing. So they're gonna have to do something with their property lines. But he just got it closer to the teen center by what he did. And he could have worked with these people. He didn't need that extra 6 feet. He said the fire department, I called the fire department. They didn't give him any regulations he needed that extra 6 feet around his building. He did that to piss him off. Well, now we're sitting here with a guy that's gonna do whatever he feels like doing. I don't know who he knows in the city or whatever deal's going on, but it needs to stop. And I hope that with code enforcing, that this happens and that it stops him right now.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so, you know, at this point, you guys are gonna meet together? Yeah, follow up on the request also about the council
We look at the 6-foot home fence and the razor wire and see.
Mayor?
Yes, sir. Vice Mayor?
I think there should be in complete compliance if there's any issues, these accusations, not accusations, but reports from the community. I think it should be looked into, and let's make sure that there should not be any business started until everybody gets their permit. And let's make sure everybody's in compliance. Whoever they are.
And I believe too, there's other facilities that have like generators on top that don't follow, code as well. But anyways, you know, when I call, like, code enforcement, I'm told that, they're not in charge, being paid for a task force, which I'm not sure why that's the case, but if someone is doing something illegal in any home, the police would respond, but I was told by management that that's not the department.
There is a, Councilman Rubio, there is a task force that, regarding inspections and that should not preclude our police department from going out and doing inspections and so forth. But there is a task force that's been put together, but again, it shouldn't stop our people from going.
And I make that same point, because they're not in charge. And I said, well, if they were next to me in a house and installed in sanitary legally, you would go arrest them or bust them for illegally growing cannabis, right? So I was just told that I needed to the task force, that wasn't their responsibility.
No, go ahead and get together with the CEO.
Do you have any documents on that topic? This is the pause and
All right, so at this point, we're going to close session.
Yes.
All right, so at this point, we're gonna ask them to please head down.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.